Very. Crap. Sa problema ako. Kasi, before I go and change, let me do something like this. Pinin, pinin ko lang sa taas, ah. Right? I just pinned yung topic. Wait, Hans, baka I'll switch lang. Wait, wait a bit. Ayan, pwede na. Alright. There you go. Yep, I
Yan.
can hear you.
Okay. Narinig mo ako?
Yep, yep.
Okay, cool. Okay. So, I think there's enough speakers here. I can start setting the rules. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, sige. 6 people. Okay na yan. That's enough people to debate. Okay. The current state of LGBT rights, Philippines edition. Obviously, ito yung venue, Twitter Spaces. Rules. The host and co-host can do whatever they want to in their own discretion and you can be muted at any time. Parang ang lupit, no? Ang lupit.
Pwede.
I didn't need to say this, but whatever. Be respectful and civil. That's a given. The questions will have a designated format suited to the nature of the question. So, the host, co-host will explain the question. Then whoever raised their hand first can answer in a statement format question. Tapos, in the debate format, the host, co-host, speaker, and another person can talk amongst each other, discussing the speaker's answer to the question. And also, keep in mind that the co-host's questions and statements do not necessarily reflect his or her personal opinion on the matter, but is just said to keep the conversation going. Ibig sabihin, makiki-argue lang kami para mangontra. Sharp.
Right. Ganun. Just for the sake of other side, no?
Oh naman. There will only be up to 5 speakers at a time. Twitter's max is 10, but I will have it at 5 to keep things organized. Hindi ako sure kung kailangan ko tong ipatupad. Kasi mukhang civil naman tayo lahat. And I don't think there's gonna be a whole lot of people anyway, which is fine. Basta, I just did this because, for the sake of doing it.
You thought it's important, no? Parang ganun.
The designated speaker on a statements format can opt to request for input if he or she wants others' opinions after he or she finished making his or her statement. So, kung yung question, yung sa statements format, ibig sabihin, yan, parang depende yun sa tipo ng question. Pwedeng, may debate or parang isa-isa lang yung mag-uusap at a time. If that makes sense. Does that make sense to you guys? Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, it
Okay,
does. It's
cool.
okay.
Okay. Saturday ko to sinindi. I feel like I should have promoted this a little bit more. But, we're already here.
Okay naman. Seems clear.
Grabe yung tulog ko. 9 a.m. ako, tas 6 p.m. ako nagising. Langya.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that fun? So, again, 6:30 tayo magsisimula. I'm streaming on
Cool.
YouTube. So, kung gusto niyo manood, doon. Si Thea mamaya pa pala. Sige. Si Thea din kasi mag-co-host, but it's fine. Makikinig lang daw siya muna ngayon. It's okay. No pressure. This is a low pressure cat, but hopefully there will be a productive conversation out of this.
Hans, okay ba yung background ko? Okay lang? Or medyo mainit?
Okay lang.
Okay, good.
May narinig akong music, but that's fine.
Crack. Okay. Kailangan niya ano.
All right. Okay. 3 more minutes. I'm just gonna do some stuff.
Is Thea co-hosting?
Mamaya. Busy daw. So anyway, let's just wait for some more people. Hello, Raj. Musta na, sir? Or ma'am?
Hey, Raj.
We're gonna start at 6:30, guys.
Ethical questions.
Okay. 6:29. We have 1 more minute. Okay, it's 6:30. There's 9 people here. That's enough, guys. That's enough for us to get started. So let's do this. Okay.
All right.
Nasaan na yung profile? Welcome to the current state of LGBT rights, Philippines edition. I just wanted to, make this space so we can talk about this. And, you know, I haven't seen a space about this yet. So here we can talk about these things and, in the name of Pride Month, you know, we're going to talk about this. Now, as you guys might have already seen the list of questions, but I'm just gonna enumerate them one by one and explain what it is. And then when we get to the point where I'm gonna ask the question, I'm just gonna repeat what I said about the question. So I'm gonna say it twice. But in this case, I'm just gonna list out the questions one by one. So question one, what is your opinion on the new Sogi bill? So this is like a basic starter question. Ano lang, pang simula lang.
Yeah, for
Um,
just in case, Hans, when you say debate format, you can say that you agree and disagree and why.
Oo nga, hindi, sasabihin ko rin bago magano.
All right.
Yeah. And again, pag nasa statements format, kung gusto niyo kung gusto niyo magdagdag ng speakers, um, pagkatapos niyo sabihin yung statement niyo, like you want input from someone else, sabihin niyo lang, request for input, okay? All right. Question 2, where do we draw the line between what religion would want and what ideal LGBT rights should be? So, tinatanong dito yung tungkol sa separation ng church and state or um, parang ano ba dapat yung maging natin sa society? Yeah, I should invite speakers. Pero mamaya-maya. Ethical questions, preference questions. Should trans women be obligated to disclose that they are trans to romantic partners that they meet? Natanong ko na to dati sa mga ibang kilala. Pero this is a really interesting question. So that's why I wanted to put it in there. Question 4, do you think pronouns are corny or is it a legitimate expression of identity? Hindi ko nalagay yung last part, but essentially yun yung
Pretty
tanong.
sure, Hans, or if naging choppy ka rin.
Ha?
Choppy ka ba?
Am I?
Ngayon, medyo mas okay.
Hindi. Ano lang, masyado lang maraming background noise.
Crack. Baka ako yun. Sige, flip lang.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Question 5. What are some opinions that you have about the current discourse on gender identity? So, this is more of a Western issue kasi maraming doon. Well, baka nakita nyo kasi sa media na ang daming nagpo-promote ng mga LGBT na identity. Pag nakita nyo sa movies, 'di ba? Halimbawa, yung sa ano ba 'yan? Sa forgot what it was. Basta may mga basta recently sa mga movie, may mga ganon na may mga movies na pinopromote yung parang gender identity kahit arguably wala sa lugar. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that's what people think about it.
Define wala sa lugar.
It's like okay. Not to say na that's again, this isn't me. Pero ibig sabihin ng wala sa lugar ay yung gender identity nila walang kinalaman sa identity nila sa movie, if that makes sense. Na parang it is not a salient it's not a salient aspect of who they are in the context of their role in the movie. Okay, Northern is taking a break, so that's fine for now. Um, Requested. Approve. All right.
Hans,
Yep.
Hans, what with what you said, that's going to take another. That would require another space by
Oh.
itself. I mean, discussing it, yung in terms of in the movie,
Hmm.
I think it's a whole different topic by itself.
We'll see. Well, you might be right. So in that case, I guess ano na lang, parang compartmentalize na lang yung topic. And hindi ko na mention kung ano yung ano dito. But this is a statements format lang yung question 5. Now, question 6 is kind of the same question. Pretend this is in Pride Month. Do you think that gender identity is being promoted too much in the media? It's kind of the same question, but yeah, we'll just keep it on the same, all the same. Question 7. Do you think that the Philippines is more tolerant of LGBT than other liberal democracies? In what ways are the Philippines more or less accepting of LGBT in society? So, ang ibig sabihin nito, parang halimbawa, kasi marami tayong mga sikat na celebrity dito na ano na they're in the sexual spectrum. Na halimbawa si Vice Ganda. And she's very popular artist. Pero syempre may mga iba ding parts society na ano tayo na meron tayong pwede tayong ano homophobic or transphobic or any other LGBT phobe. And that's the case. So, you know, that's up to you guys to have an input if you have any kung saan tayo mas tolerant ng LGBT, anong mga aspects tayo mas tolerant ng LGBT at kung saan hindi. To trans people in the audience, have you ever felt gender dysmorphia? And if you did, what did it feel like? Because this is a kung ano meron dyan sa audience. Kindly share. If you want to share, you don't have to. But, it's up for us to understand because because there may kasabihan na you will never know what it's like unless you put yourself in someone's shoes. So in this case, we're gonna at least try to do that a little bit. You know what I mean? So, question 8. Question 9. To somewhat devoutly religious LGBT in the audience, how do you reconcile what your faith says about your sexuality with your sexuality? So, kung religious ka tapos LGBT ka rin, how do you reconcile that? Or parang it's hard to explain the question. Pero parang for lack of a better way of saying it, how do you rationalize being both gay being both LGBT and religious, if that makes sense. And then question 10, closing statement. So kung meron kayong gustong sabihin before we close, that's it. Any questions?
I think we're all fine.
Okay. Sige. Question 1 na tayo. What is your opinion on the new Sogi bill? Taas kamay. Or heart react kung gusto niyo request for speaker.
Ay, si Thea. Go, Thea.
CEO ba? Gusto mo? Sige lang. Request for speaker ka na lang. If you want. Pero sige, Thea muna. Go.
Meron pa palang first speaker, second speaker. I'm just gonna state my opinion, and my opinion has been consistent, I guess. I would totally cheer for the parts about protecting people from discrimination based on their soji. I am totally for it. And the idea that everyone, including the LGBTQIA plus community, should be able to access work, education, health services, and other public services without fear and without worry that they might be discriminated, completely aligned with the principle of my support for individual freedom that I hold dear. However, the part about regulating what people can advertise, especially if they're business owners, or what they can publish or whom they can hire, might make me pause about, the previous statement. So I believe deeply in the importance of freedom of speech. And by the way, blocking people does not stifle their freedom to speak. And I have blocked hundreds of them. And while I'm absolutely against any form of hate speech or violence incitement, I might worry that in the process of asserting the rights of the LGBTQIA and advance their, access to workplace health services without fear of discrimination, I am worried that this could potentially infringe on the people's rights, especially the business owners' rights to express themselves. Because when we think about the issue of property rights and the business owners' freedoms. Kasi sa issue ng LGBTQ, especially sa context ng, alam mo yon, yung walang discriminatory sa workplace, we always look at the rights of the LGBTQ only. But let's not forget, in this business transaction or in this market transaction, there is the employees and also the employers. So if you support rights, human rights or civil rights, you look at both sides. You have to look at the sweet spot again. Meet everything halfway, not just side to one group, yung parang extreme na yan, or not just
30
side to the
seconds.
business owner group. So, with the issue of property rights and business owners' freedoms, as much as I dislike discrimination, I might feel uncomfortable with the government telling businesses who they should hire or serve, and I likely believe that a market should naturally penalize discriminatory businesses in a sense that if we see a business that is discriminating against their employees or their customers,
15 seconds.
then we as customers would say, I'm not going to give you my business. I'm going to take my business elsewhere. And that is a form of penalty for the business that or business owners that committed these discriminatory practices. That's all for now.
Okay. Anyone got something to say? Sige, try. Go ahead. Ay, sorry. Sige, try. Go ahead. 2 minutes ka. 2 minutes ka. 2 minutes.
Yeah, Taya's statement got me thinking. Um, yeah, I usually agree with her with this statement previously in many spaces, but it got me thinking. Um, she's against this Soji if it's going to infringe the rights of other people, but have any rights of any person in Philippine setting has been infringed because of gender issue other than those who belongs to the LGBT community. My point is, um, uh, we want to be careful in creating a law that might infringe the rights of other people. But the very creation of this law is actually
One minute.
to answer that problem in society. Those who have been uh, offended by LGBTQ, quote unquote, um, they have not been offended the way LGBT community have been offended or discriminated previously, and that's the reason precisely why SOG bill is being created.
30 seconds.
I hope you understand what I meant.
30 seconds. Okay na, Ben?
That's it.
Okay.
Okay na yan.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Wala nang salita.
Hans,
Hi.
I think you should give more time since wala pa naman ganong kasi I think even Thea, it would have been nicer if she could have expounded on her statement, since wala pa namang gaanong ano. So, to
Okay,
just to
that's
have
fine. Yeah, okay lang naman. This is a loose format. Wala namang masyadong tao.
exactly.
So, sige
Exactly.
lang. Hindi, kung gusto, if you guys still wanna talk about it, sige lang.
So, gusto ko i-clear ha. Um, yes, I've agreed with Thea in many spaces before. Pero yung sinabi niya kasi ngayon, napag-isip ako na this she would be against Soji if it's going to infringe the rights of other people. But the very reason why Soji was created in the first place, because the rights of these people has been infringed already in many settings, while those who assume that their right might be infringed, it hasn't happened yet, diba? I mean, let's see where it goes. And I don't
Hello,
know.
Barbs.
I wish Thea could be more
Hello, Barbs.
specific.
Dito sa question 1, this is a debate format, so you're free to speak at any time. It's okay.
Go, Thea.
Hindi, sige lang. Hindi nyo kayo...
If I were
Sige
usually
lang.
when I
Debate format to. You can speak at any time.
Yeah, usually it's not really hard debate, right? I don't want to sound like antagonistic, but anyway, if I were usually when I debate on issues, I really am mindful of my principles or not my feelings. So, if I were to grapple with this question with from a libertarian standpoint, I'd first affirm, so I'm not invalidating, that SOGI laws are designed to protect individuals from discrimination based on their SOGI, diba? And this would perfectly align with my beliefs in, again, advancing and protecting individual rights and freedom from coercion. That being said, I understand there are concerns about potential infringement, and this brings me to an issue in the States wherein a business owner, a cake shop, refused a same sex couple to make their cake on the basis of their soji. So, who won in that case? Actually, the business owner won. Because even though it might appear as if it was discriminatory for him to say na, oh, I'm not going to do your cake because of your soji, he was also asserting his religious freedom and his right in the same level as their soji, but in this case his freedom of religion. In their religion kasi does not believe, they do not recognize same-sex union. So again, some potential infringement would be religious freedom, particularly if someone believes in that their religious beliefs are in conflict with homosexuality or differing gender identities. Personally, I would respect everyone's rights to their beliefs in the same level as I would respect someone's soji. Alam mo yan? However, again, we cannot just raise someone's soji. We cannot use that as a basis for penalizing someone who is also asserting their constitutional right, their religious freedom. And another freedom that might be infringed upon is freedom of speech. Ito yung, if we have opinion against LGBTQ people, we are entitled to it silently. But if we use it, if we vocalize it the same way as religious freedom in a public setting, as a mean to discriminate, a group of people, although of course we retain our rights to decide on how we should conduct our business and how we should operate their business, then I guess we draw the line between what is the intention. Are we okay in the case of Mrs. Owner? Are they asserting their right to free speech or religious freedom, or they're vocalizing as a means to humiliate a group of people or discriminate them publicly? So, how do we draw the line? Intention. So, yes, Chai, freedoms will be infringed upon, constitutional rights will be infringed upon. In this case, I would choose an anti-discriminatory bill that is more broad in scope.
Okay.
I think that is more fair.
Okay.
But
Thank you, Thea.
Thea,
Teka lang, guys. Si Jawad, he just became a speaker, so I just need to mention a couple of ground rules. Dito said for this question specifically, this is a debate format, so you can speak at any time. Pero syempre, wag kang ano, wag naman ano, basta-bastang sasabat. Pero you can speak at any time kasi nga debate format yung question. So, I just want to mention the ground rules kasi I just gave you speakership. So, yeah. Sige, continue. Continue. Sige lang, go lang, Northern. Or anybody.
Um, yung I kind of agree with you on yung first part nung sinabi mo about yung cake. It really happened. I remember in that time. You see, that's what's wrong with other people then eh. Na you insist on your privilege to be to be satisfied. Like if someone you don't want to do you something for whatever reason, be it gender or religious, they have the right to refuse you. Especially when it comes to siguro we might have to do a separate law when it comes to business. So it's going to be a bit more not harsh. Um, gosh, this is my problem when I talk about Soji bills is because a lot of questions are coming from different angles. I'm conscious about that. That's why it's always difficult. But also, yung sinabi ni Thea na to protect people from yung religious yes kasi specifically I mean if religious group can freely label us as satanic, demonic, evil and all that, and why are they going to stop us to do whatever we want to do for as long as we don't hurt them, when in fact their freedom of speech kung sa salita lang, I don't think that matters in LGBTQ, but I think LGBTQ must more concerned about being allowed to do whatever they want to do. I mean, I think it would be okay to call us whatever you want to call us, but just let us be what we are. Like you can call us demons, whatever, perverts and all, but if I want to do something, you shouldn't be able to stop me from doing something. Like if I want to get married, I want to have you shouldn't use that against me. And you shouldn't use that to humiliate me or belittle me.
By the way, Courts, kung gusto mo magsalita, if you want to speak, you can speak freely because for this question specifically, this is a debate format. You two, Barbs, you can speak freely at any time because this question is a debate format. So if you want to speak, go ahead.
That's
Oh,
state of
Courts then and
courts.
Barbs.
Hi.
Kasi kanina
Sorry.
pa sila gusto magsalita.
Hindi. I think better na siguro hands yung raising hands
Yep.
para at least mas para we don't talk over each other.
Sige. Hindi, sige, okay. Ganito na lang. Courts muna. Courts muna.
Hi Thea, hi Miss Chai, hi everybody. Hi Hans. Ayun. Okay, so we're talking about the LGBT rights this is not specific to just the Soji bills, but this is my take. Again, I'm not an authority on this, but then, like what Thea mentioned, and everyone else here would agree also that we have our own opinion about this. Now, I have been reading a lot of my Twitter feeds, and unfortunately, there are a lot of happenings going on everywhere else around the world, including the Philippines. And ang issue ko lang naman kasi dito would be, as a parent would be, that they're tagging it as grooming, right? So I don't have any problems with LGBTQ rights if they wanted to be more inclusive as part of the society. But my only concern here would be the grooming part of the children, where this how should I say it more sensitively? Siguro ko, sorry, I cannot find us more sensitive, so I apologize. Please do not get offended
It's
or anything.
okay. I think we
Okay.
should be here.
I am
In,
trying to be more
Oh,
politically correct, but
yeah.
okay,
It's okay,
okay.
Tita
So
Courts.
yeah, okay. So this ano kasi this thing that's been going on, yung grooming that people are taking it to schools and exposing children into this kind of uh siguro ko events. This is not acceptable for me. So as far as part of the Soji bill siguro, like what you said, Miss Shai, we have to also find some sort of siguro ko
Common
a
ground.
delineation, a common ground, or maybe a delineation as to how far we should take it. Siguro ko not to the point that we are grooming children, because at this very young of age, for children to actually be thinking and seeing, yung mga happenings na ganito, I'm not sure about the other parents, but I don't agree with that. So there.
Can I address Tita Courts? Because that's a very valid question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Miss Chai.
Go lang.
I share your concern about that, but the truth is, grooming has been happening even before the advent of LGBTQ issue. The truth is, ginagamit nila yan para to scare off people. But this is what I can tell you about as a parent to reassure you about this is that maraming nangyayari sa school, like even drugs, even violence. Nangyayari yan even during our time. But if you're going to raise your kids
no.
with strong values and very strong personality, they wouldn't be easily swayed by this. Because in as much as we want to um protect our youth from this kind of ideology, which we don't agree, it is out there. That is the truth, and the only way that you can protect them is to make them smarter and less insecure about themselves. Yun lang.
Sige
Sorry,
lang.
Thea, may I?
Sige lang, if anyone else wants to speak,
Sige,
Courts, si
Thea, go.
Courts, Courts ulit. Hindi, si Courts ulit.
Okay. So what you're saying, Chai, kasi that grooming has been happening for quite a while now. Sige, fine, given that. However, kasi when you are raising a child, pag mga maliliit pa sila, 'di ba, parang they were saying, okay, so this is going to be nature versus nurture. So when you try to nurture children, no matter the age, ilan lang ba naman yung mga family members around them, right? So there are only few. You have the parents, you have the extended families, you have the support of other people, so you have the support of other relatives. But by the time that they step into the real world and they become friends with other people and they started to go out, they become experimental. So that's an influence of nature na. So ito na yung mga tao na nasa paligid nila. And of course, even if as hard as we could and as as much as we would like to make them or to raise them smarter and um, more siguro ko a better citizen, for that matter, we can't, because if there's outside influence that are more
Um, I'm sorry, Courts. Medyo humihina yung yung mic mo.
oh, sorry, sige. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's good, it's good, it's
It's
good.
better. Okay, so sana ko medyo mahina kanina sa was saying.
By the way, I'm sorry. I'm gonna give you one more minute, and then we're gonna move on to the next question.
Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, no, so this is becoming nature versus nurture kind of thing, eh. Yun nga, pag lumabas na sila, as they grow and they started to become friends with other people outside of their family or within the community that we're trying to raise them, as protected as we could, as possibly as we could, we can't. So pag meron talagang outside influence, so sometimes they become confused at some point. So yun.
Okay.
Quick lang, let me refocus the discussion to Soji kasi nawawala na tayo. You guys are not discussing about Soji anymore. I guess we should first acknowledge that drawing the line between harmful speech and free expression, as well as religious freedom, is very nuanced. It's a nuanced task, and we should argue with nuance. It's about finding a balance that respects individual liberties while maintaining a society that is fair and just for all. So for example, so sinabi ko kanina, I just want to expound sa freedom of religion because I quickly Googled this. This is the case of Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission. And this case in the US is a good illustration of the challenge that we have at hand. Ito yung where do we draw the line between hate speech and religious freedom or freedom of expression. Yung bakery owner, like I've said earlier, refused to create a wedding cake for the same-sex couple, citing, sabi niya, it is his religious belief na they do not recognize same-sex marriage. So religious belief was the reason. And this raised the question, to what extent does freedom of religion allow one to deny services based on their soji, diba? Or based on their free expression? How do we now know whether the denial was based on hate or based on free expression? Well, you have to go to court to prove this. You have to go to court to justify that this was not a case of discrimination based on soji, but it was merely an assertion of their right. And also another example, freedom of
Taya,
speech.
1 minute na lang ah.
Okay, there was a case of a Canadian preacher arrested in the UK for expressing homosexuality is a sin. While he had the freedom of speech, and that is his constitutional right, I would refer this as hate speech. And this particular statement saying homosexuality is a sin can cause harm, it perpetuates prejudice and discrimination, and therefore not protected by the Constitution. So, again, how do we draw the line? Go to the court. It's kind of nuanced, but I guess, Chai, this is the answer that you're looking to your question.
Sorry.
Okay.
Akala ko kasi we're talking about the current state of LGBT, not specific to Soji. So,
Hindi,
Soji.
Yun ang
we're
mahirap.
basta it's just LGBT rights in general. That was
Okay,
just
okay,
the
okay.
name that was just the
Yan ang
name that I
mahirap
had.
when we
So
used to argue with Western, how the Western ideology is being um, discussed and how it is in Philippine setting, because clearly it's different, kind of different. I think in Philippine settings, I think we are more tolerant, we are more respectful, we are not that reactive as compared to Western activists. We are not that rabid. So I don't
actually,
know.
we're gonna be asking that question later in question 7. How the Philippines is more tolerant in what aspects, kumbaga, and in what aspects are we less tolerant of LGBT? We'll ask that later, and we can also debate about that later in question 10 sa mga closing statements natin. But we need to move on to the next question, which is, where do we draw the line between what religion would want and what ideal LGBT rights should be? So, marami sa inyo na religious or at least somewhat religious or nakayong religious affiliation. So, if it was you, where would you draw the line between church and state? Kasi 'di ba may sinatawag na separation of church and state. So, ano yung what is the line? Try Layla, Lay, and anyone else wants to speak. Sige lang.
Layla first. She raised her
Okay.
hand first.
Sige Layla, go ahead.
So, yes, thank you. For my reaction to this actually is that it's difficult to really know where to draw the line, because the problem is, even if it's clear per jurisdiction what really applies to a certain place, when it comes to the conversation about LGBTQ, all of the LGBTQ people, the community itself, is raising opinion about that. For example, how one of the how one of the country or state or whatever has decided to address these rights of the LGBTQ. And if we only pay attention, we would notice that it's different how it's being addressed. But the LGBTQ community wants one way of handling them. And that's where the problem is coming from. Going to the question about the religion, if we look into one of the states in the US, which is Utah, this is heavily a Mormon state. So, with their policies and everything, it would be influenced by that, being a Mormon state. And then religion will be somehow more emphasized among other things. And I would believe that would be also for the case of the Philippines. Because even then, we are considered to be open minded and tolerant. The influence of the Catholic Church is still very strong. And whatever the Catholic Church says, it's being taken into account. Now, we have a president who is kind of open into this. But still, the conversation is not limited to him alone or to what we wanted. There's really an influence by the religion, whatever the religion is, of a place. And for the Philippines, we are even diverse with that. Yun lang opinion ko dyan.
Um, I have something to say muna, and then everyone else can go. I promise I'm not gonna have a lot of opinions here kasi marami kayo dito, and I want all of you to be able to share your opinion. Pero in this specifically, ang tanong, where do we draw the line between what religion would want and what LGBT rights should be? Ako personally, I would want a completely separate church and state na as much as possible. Not to say na it parang religion should just be a guideline. Pero syempre, we should accommodate for society at large. And maraming mga religious concepts na hindi sang-ayon sa LGBT rights. And that might conflict every now and then. Ngayon, may mga yung religion, at least Christianity, meron siyang mga virtues, meron siyang mga morals na pwedeng matanggap ng lahat. Halimbawa, the golden rule, do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. But, that is more of a exception than a rule. Maraming mga limits ang religion in terms of what you can and can't do in your personal life. So parang halimbawa, you can say na bawal technically, the Bible doesn't allow alcohol. Pero pag napansin mo, maraming mga Christians, umiinom pa rin. Diba? So, we should be very, very careful in how we consider religious concepts in applying them to social laws. Yun lang. Who's next?
I'm next.
Yeah.
Try.
Try Thea and Quartz. Labas muna ako.
Noon ko ba sinasabi,
Yeah, try Thea and then Quartz. Labas muna ako.
Okay. Noon ko pa sinasabi, religion should be separate when we are making laws because not everybody subscribe to the same religion. But I've heard one member of our community here argued before that even the Constitution itself is based on religion. Sabi niya pa nga, that's why in the end of any oath taking, it is laging sinasabing, so help me God. But I think we should acknowledge that society is evolving. In fact, there is, I think, a study that says people now are getting to be more or less religious. Therefore, what I'm trying to imply is to hindi na tayo kasing religyoso dati. Yes, our laws might have been based on our religious values when it was formed before. But I think the beauty of the law is that it can be changed in time. It should evolve to serve the society on its current form. So that's one reason why we should also change and upgrade our laws. Kasi if someone would always be arguing based on religion, then how am I, who doesn't subscribe to any kind of religion? Does that mean that I don't have a right? Yun lang. Thank you.
I disagree with Chai that religion should be a separate topic altogether when we are discussing crafting laws. when we are crafting laws such as the SOGI bill, we have to look at the Constitution, particularly the Bill of Rights, and to be specific, religious freedom. And when we say religious freedom, we're not just talking about practicing Roman Catholic, being a Muslim, being a Christian, but also being, having no organized religion or not being affiliated with an organized religion. You can be spiritual and not religious. That is still that still falls within religious freedom. And first and foremost, I deeply respect religious freedom or having views that might not align with mainstream societal attitudes or norms. For instance, may mga certain religious doctrines that do not support homosexuality and gender identities. They do not recognize that. Or sometimes in their doctrine, sinasabi na it is a sin. But I also firmly the rights of individuals. I support the rights of the individuals to hold these beliefs privately. Pagka-private kasi, kahit na sinasabi sa doctrine nila na homosexuality is a sin, then it's valid. However, paglalabas sila at sasabihin nila homosexuality is a sin, then it means to discriminate people. It's intentionally discriminatory. At the same time, kahit na I'm anti-SOGI on the basis of the law itself without prejudice to the LGBT rights, I am an ardent supporter of LGBTQ plus. I actually support how they express themselves, and yeah, they should have the freedom to express their sexual orientation and gender identity without fear of discrimination and harassment, particularly sa workplace. However, like sinasabi ko kanina, how does the line get drawn between these two rights, religion and SOGI? Again, ito yung ano ko ha, this is how I will draw the line. I would like to liken this to the idea that once you swing your fist in the end, kunwari sa left, tapos it touches the other person's nose, that's where your right ends. When you infringes on the right of the other individual. So when your right, okay, your practice of religious freedom ends where it starts to infringe upon someone else's right to live free from discrimination and vice versa. It's not just one-sided. Again, going back sa case
1 minute.
Masterpiece Cake Stop versus Colorado Civil Rights, yung commission kasi, yung bakery owner, they refuse to bake wedding cake, di ba, sa same-sex couple. But I would argue, kasi yung ano dito, yung court, decided on the side of the wedding cake owner, sinasabi na, oh, they were just asserting their right. However, I would argue with balance na if you are gonna engage in cake making business, then you should be mindful not to discriminate against certain groups of people, including LGBTQ right. I am not imposing my belief that you should do it, but you have to be fair as a business owner. But
30
you're
seconds.
not, you should not just, do it just because you have to do it. So yun, nawala ako because Hans kept on, anyway.
Sorry, sorry.
Don't
Pero
worry.
ano, again,
I think
si
as
ano
you guys
si
know,
Court, teka lang. Si Court sin susunod Tapos si Barbs.
okay, last na lang,
Wait,
I'd strive for a world where everyone's rights and freedoms are respected. And I disagree that we should not take into account someone's religion when crafting, or other people's religions, or our religious freedom when crafting laws. Kasi if we craft a law that violates freedom of expression, that is unconstitutional.
Okay, thank you. Sige, sino ba susunod? Si Try, di ba? Or si Courts?
Just si Mrs. Court.
Si Courts. Okay, Courts, go ahead. Courts.
Yeah, thank you. So this is also taking a dip into what you mentioned a while ago. Like how is it that we are more tolerant than the other nations? So I think it's also deeply rooted in us, our religion. So kaya siguro mas tolerant tayo sa ibang tao because of that. Now yung sinasabi din kasi ni Thea regarding dun sa mga businesses as to how we draw the line. I can think of a lot of things as to how we can do that. But so kasi pwede nating sabihin na lang every time that okay, if I own let's say a dress, let's say a wedding dress or a shop. So I can always say na, okay, well, I'm sorry, I'm a Catholic and it's against my belief na um, na na the LGBT, so I should turn them away. So maraming factors as to how we can probably take on this issue pagdating sa negosyo. Siguro ko yung SOGI bill is too broad. Um, so siguro ko throwing this into everybody na lang na parang, o sige, do we have to be very specific kung hanggang saan talaga yung rights of other people? Because at some point, we don't want to step into um, someone's backyard and sabihin na lang natin, oh, okay, it's always my right. Kasi they can, like what's happening in other nations that, they keep unharping on their rights na, no, you're, anyway, it's my right, etc. You have to, so is that going to happen here? I have not heard any of, meron na pala dito. So, meron na pala mga ganong issue dito. So, is it always going to happen? Ganyan na lang ba palagi um, na magkakaroon ng issue pagdating sa religion and business and family setup and school. So do we have to be very very specific on the SOGI bill? So yun, throwing it out there.
Okay, thank you for that. Um, teka lang. Si Oreo at saka si Theo, teka lang, approve ko muna kaya. Okay, teka lang, bago kayo magsalita. I'm just gonna mention the ground rules once again and also welcome to this space kasi maraming mga bagong visitors. So, again, this is just a space where we discuss LGBT rights. Currently, we are on question 2, which is where do we draw the line between what religion would want and what ideal LGBT rights should be? May nag-request. Approve. Okay. And by the way, the maximum is dapat 5 nga lang eh. Pero this is okay because there isn't that many people here. So that's fine. Anyway, if you guys want to talk, just raise your hand. So who wants to talk? Kasi I'm sorry guys, but I lost track.
I think si China next.
Si China ulit. Sige, si China ulit. Sige ba?
It's okay. If you want to continue to the next question, that's
sige,
fine.
next question na. Hindi, si Oreo. You have 2 minutes.
Go, Oreo.
Hello, I'm Mario. So, yun. Sorry for the background noise if ever may nakikinig kayo.
Teka lang medyo mahangin bro. Medyo mahangin.
So, yun. I am from Navota City. I graduated from Catholic school. So, yun. For me kasi, when we talk about religion and laws, as a law enthusiast, for me, in my opinion, I would agree to what Hans says na kailangan when we make laws, paghiwalayin muna natin ang state and religion. There are things na kinoconsider ng iba't ibang sekta ng religion na hindi kinoconsider din ng ibang religion. It contradicts the other religion. And yun nga, there are other sects na tumatanggap sa LGBTQIA plus rights and other Protestants who accepts their LGBT couples. And in Catholic, for me, in Catholicism naman, we are acceptable. Hindi lang dun sa mga matatanda, pero sa mga batang Katoliko, we are more acceptable. We are more encouraging to them. Like what Pope Francis says, na who I am to judge. Yun yung sinasabi niya. And yun, when we make laws kasi, this is also, we're talking about human rights, na isa din sa mga fundamental laws of the land, na kailangan bawat tao nakakatanggap. There are things na hindi naaabot ng mga LGBTQIA plus couples. For example, yung right to marriage, which is hindi lahat nakakatanggap ng benefits sa pagkasal. and yung iba nagsasama din na couples. And yun nga, when we're talking about religion, may iba't ibang opinion ng bawat relihiyon na napakadami dito sa Pilipinas. And we should also consider, for me consider our history, our pre-colonial history when it comes to making religion. Remember, we used to accept LGBTQI plus people, especially gays, na ginagawa nating babaylan before. So yun.
Okay, if no one else wants to speak, we'll move on to the next question. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next question. Should trans women be obligated to disclose that they are trans to romantic partners that they meet? Okay, so ito lang yung mga ito yung portion na this is about ethical questions kasi there's some situations na parang mahirap pag-usapan per se. And I think this is this is a fun question. And again, guys, remember where you are. Oh my god. Hirap Pero ang hirap ang hirap maglagay. Teka lang, ang hirap maglagay ng disclaimer. Pero in order, si Theo, Try, tapos si Leila. Go.
Yep. Go.
We can hear you, bro.
Right. Yeah, okay. So, should I should trans people have to no, I don't think so. Kasi hindi. Kasi medyo ano yan eh, parang you have to disclose part of your identity. Ay, ano ako. Hindi naman pwede ganun, di ba? Saka, ito medyo magiging ano to eh. Kung mahal mo naman yung isang tao, kailangan namang, di naman kailangan, ano kagad eh, tawag yun, kukusgahan mo kagad, ay, trans ka pala, ew, ganun. I don't think kailangan i-disclose. Pero kung gusto namang i-disclose ng trans person, then go! You know? Kasi nga, di ba, should, not can. Should indicates kind of a requirement na kailangan nilang i-disclose yung sarili nila eh. And of course, hindi yun maganda. But, if it's, kung gusto naman ng trans person na, ano sila, sure. Lalo na pag sa romantic partners, kasi meron din naman trans person na gradual lang na sasabihin nila yung gender identity nila. So yeah, that's my take on this.
Okay, thank you. By the way, si Northern, hi Northern. Teka lang.
Hello.
Are you here? Okay. Si Northern ang magde-designate ng speakership natin. And in this case, yung current order ay si Try, si Leila, and then si Theatan, and then si Quartz. Tan din si Quartz. I'm sorry guys, medyo bago kasi ako sa pag-host ng Twitter Space. So, nakakagulo. Pero si Northern, marami ng experience yan eh. Alam niya master yan ng lipunan. So, siya ang designated na magse-set ng order ng speakership. So, sino na ulit, Northern? Ang susunod?
I think it's Lay, di ba? Then Shai, Thea, then Court.
Okay.
No, I think it's me
Or
first.
Chai. Then go Chai.
Anyway, I have may dalawa akong position dito sa question na ito.
Sure.
First, as a human being, and second, as a trans woman. As a human being, in any kind of relationship, I think it's very important to be very upfront and be very honest about the kind of relationship that you're going into. Because otherwise, what's the point of going into a relationship if you can't trust person? And how can you trust someone if they can't be 100% open and upfront about their true identity? That's one part of my argument. The second part is that as a trans woman, and in my experience, it is always in the good what's the word, intention or it's in the good advantage of any trans woman to disclose their true gender identity, para din maprotektahan sila in the future, kasi a lot of violence in the past, with regards to trans women, are mostly because of this, pag hindi pagdi-disclose ng identity nila sa, particularly sa partner nila. Yun lang. I mean, kung i-disclose man siguro, indiscretion, it doesn't have to be public, but if just simply to those people that they trust. Yun. Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
teka lang. So again, may mga bago tayong visitors dito. This space is about the current state of LGBT rights, and we are currently on question 3. So, should trans women be obligated to disclose that they are trans to romantic partners that they meet? Northern, sino na?
All right. Thanks, Lay. Then Thea, then Courts.
Yeah.
Go, Lay.
Okay, thank you. Actually, romantic partners, that means they already went through the dating. I
No,
think
no.
at
Actually,
that level,
teka lang, Leila. As a disclaimer, hindi pa. It's
okay
base
then.
sa question.
Yeah, because I wanted to emphasize that one because it my answer will be depending on like
Mm.
dating, getting to know each other. So okay, I will go to that context.
Hindi,
My opinion is this. Yes, my opinion is this. Um, Listening to the guys, yung mga totoong lalaki, what they really wanted is there is a disclosure as to the identity of the person, whether a real woman or a trans woman. Because apparently for them, just based on my observation, real men really wanted only to engage with real women. That's the fact. So, by deliberately uh, keep it as you call that, as a secret to the other person, it always ends into how you call that, a problem. There's always this discussion whether the trans woman is being, how you call it, harassed or whatever, all these kind of things, or even to the extent that it's a kind of hating. The problem that I can see from this is that we don't really listen to what the real men want also, as opposed to what the trans women want. It is really important that we also take into account what the real men want. So for the trans women who would date, I think honesty is really important because if you don't, you would not have any serious relationship at all. That's all.
All right. Thanks, Lay. Thea, then Courts. Thea.
Thea in 10 seconds.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm gonna speak purely from a personal standpoint, and I've been through this experience before. But by the way, I'm a real woman. I believe first and foremost, transparency is and trust and honesty. They are essential to any successful relationship, and this applies to everyone, regardless of their gender identity or sexual orientation. However, the question of whether and how a transgender woman should disclose her gender is solely dependent on her. It's about, kasi there are many things to consider. Her right to privacy. Then she has to consider if she needs to be honest to her partner, especially when they are romantically compatible, diba? She also has to consider her safety in a sense that kapag ka sinabi ba niya yan sa partner niya, is he gonna attack her physically? Alam mo yan? So, and it's kind of a tricky situation, but I think that every person, especially trans people, they have the right to control whatever they disclose about themselves, including yung history ng kanilang gender. They have to take time, just like how I took time in revealing some aspects of my life. Nobody should compel anyone to disclose, whatever information they have. I guess this is a case of you have to face the risk of not disclosing. And their right needs to be respected, whether, they will disclose eventually or once they
Mm.
feel comfortable and safe, once they trust their partner better, there's really no right or wrong time to disclose. Parang it is totally up to them to disclose. So this is more of an ethical question. I would think that anyone who engages in a romantic relationship who is serious enough would eventually disclose their gender identity once they feel safer and once they are in a position wherein they think that they will be accepted by their partner. Yun lang. Simple answer.
All
Okay,
right,
so
thanks, Thea. Next is course.
okay, so for me, I'm all for full disclosure too, because if you want to get into a long term relationship and you want to nurture the relationship, so but sometimes before you get married, or if you want to get hitched in the future, sometimes you dig deep into the relationship, into the history, um, the background of a person, etc. So it's much better, to be very transparent to your partner, for about whatever it is that you have, whether it be it your sexuality or um status in life or kung ano man yan, 'di ba? Mas maganda yung you're open about things to each other. So I'm all for full disclosure.
All right,
Okay, teka
Hans, I
lang
think that.
teka lang, kailangan ko lang i-mention
Okay,
yung
go.
ground rules kasi meron tayong mga bagong speaker. Uh,
Sure.
so yeah, just raise your hand. Sige, CEO.
Rio,
Hi po. As
good evening.
hello.
Yep, you can hear you.
Yeah. I think my answer would be to that would be no, because straight people do not have to discuss their gender or genitals when they when they date. But however, while we do not owe it to anybody to talk about our genitals uh, prior to having a relationship. It may be actually safer to do so. Ayun lang po.
Hmm. Okay, that's an interesting fact to you. Barb's. Barb's, good evening.
Hello po. Can you hear me po?
Yep. Yep, can hear you.
Ayun. So, yeah. In response to Rio, I think it's not about genitals though. It's about pag makikipag-date ka kasi, the first thing that you should know is that to be honest with the partner. So, dapat umpisa pa lang, dinidisclose mo na yung kung sino ka. Kasi, um, I'm sorry, I don't know how to talk.
Mm. Hello?
Nawala. Hindi, sige,
Oo nga,
okay lang.
nawala.
Babalik naman yan. Okay, sino pa ba?
Records yun. Records.
Okay.
Yeah. Oo. Yung sinasabi lang ni Ryu na kanina, no, I think medyo ano yun, medyo dangerous yun kasi it's already been mentioned here on the space that for the safety of everybody, it's much better to disclose. Kasi if you don't, eventually your partner is going to find out. So it's not really about your genitals. It's really more of your orientation as to what you choose, whether or not you want to anong tawag dito, parang whether or not you want to disclose that you are a uh, transgender or transsexual, yun. So, 'di ba? It's much better to actually disclose it to your partner as early as possible. Yung sinasabi na ni si Barb ba yun kanina. So,
Mm.
yun lang.
Well, see you. But okay. Chai, go.
And as much as I want to agree with Rio being my trans sister, let's put in context also na in a marriage, let's assume that yung relationship ninyo na hindi ka nag-disclose becomes into a full-blown relationship. You not divulging that very crucial part of your identity can actually be used against you for grounds of separation. That means that you broke a law by misrepresenting yourself. So why are we going to tolerate something that is against the law, 'di ba? So just to begin with, parang wag natin I think a lot of my trans sister are so enamored by the prospect of marriage that they refuse, or for lack of better word, blinded by the fact na this your gender identity should be very um clear from the very beginning of a relationship. Because otherwise, it has happened already. I've seen that in case. I've seen that in court where a woman in Saudi Arabia got into marriage with a guy. The guy even know that she's trans woman, yet they still proceed with the marriage. But when the family of the man asked him to divorce her because she could not bear a child, um the guy unfortunately don't have any um recourse but to go on with the case. And in the court proceedings, what happened is that um they were forced to reveal her true identity, that she's not a biological woman, therefore that marriage is um null and void to begin with. So, yun, umpisa pa lang, ano na, talo ka na sa korte. So, bakit natin tutulak yung mga kapatid natin sa isang bagay na ikakapahamak nila? Yun lang.
All right, thanks, Chai. And I think there's no more raised hands.
Okay,
Hands?
okay. Sige, sige. Next question. So, this is more of a Western problem. Kasi, dito sa Philippines, I mean, I guess, sa mga ibang circles, gumagamit sila ng pronouns sa kanilang profile.
Oh, you'd be
Requested.
surprised, though. Kasi I've been to Zoom meetings na may nakalagay na yung pronouns niya.
So may ganon. Pero in this next question, and this is not the best wording on my part. Kasi ang tanong dito is, do you think pronouns are corny, or do you think that they are a legitimate expression of gender identity or personal is it a true form of courtesy? So yun ang tanong. Sino
Would
na
you
yung
like to
order?
blend that with question 5 din or hindi?
Parang hindi. I'm gonna ask them one by one, and then we're gonna
Sure.
figure out
All
the
right.
differences between the questions. Kasalanan ko yan
Okay, then
kasi
okay,
medyo
okay.
magkakalapit
I
yung
think they're
question.
very specific, but okay lang. Okay, let's go, Theo. Then if there's anyone
Right.
else, please raise your hands.
Right. Okay. So if you ask me about, okay, so to answer that question, I'd say I'm 60-40. 60 in favor, 40 not. Why? Because look, respecting pronouns is basic decency para sa akin. Kasi kung yun yung gusto ng tao, especially if that person is queer, then sure, these are my pronouns. You introduce me like this. You do not misgender me and call me a he or a it, she or it. Kahit hindi naman yun yung pronoun ko, please use the preferred pronoun I use. Then, kailangan nating kailangan turo natin na masanay po dapat kayo. Ito po yung pronouns ko, tuturuan ko na lang po kayo kung paano. Ito yung papakita ko sa inyo. Now, in that 40, I think, I guess, yung ano ko is less on pronouns in general, but more than the whole neo-pronouns phenomenon, yung mga X, E, yung mga ganyan. Hanggang ngayon nako-Korean pa rin ako doon. But, in general, you like say he, she, or they, okay lang ako doon. Kasi ano naman yan eh, tamang grammar naman, saka di ka naman nakakaapak ng tao pag nire-recognize mo yung pronouns. Yun lang. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Theo. Let's go, Chai. And walang next. Okay.
Sabi ko nga I'm more than just my pronouns. In as much as I understand um my fellow LGBTQ that they insist on their pronouns being used. Hindi naman kasi tayo pare-pareho. I can um go past that kind of issue. But the thing is, yung pronoun kasi, it might be simple, and sometimes people might think it's a non-issue, but then yan yung minsan pinagsisimulan kasi ng disagreement, ng tawag dito, attack, and yeah, it sometimes might um evolve into harassment na, kasi it's a form of an insult, if you see it in a way. um they obviously know that you are not, well, I would put uh I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they are not aware. Okay, but if someone is aware that you are quote unquote not the normal male or female, and yet they parang intentionally or carelessly tag you as such, at minsan pa you correct them already, and then they would still insist on dun kasi nagsisimula. I think that's why this issue is being brought up, kasi umpisa pa lang ng conversation, meron ng kumbaga panglilibak, pang-iinis. Kumbaga nag-uumpisa pa lang tayo ng usapan, meron ng disrespect kaagad. Yun yung ang tingin ko diyan. Kaya yung iba, members of the community make it as a big issue. And I've seen it a lot of times. Even here, ewan ko, nandiyan pa ba si Charm, na they're practicing such kind of ah, yun lang, thank you.
Right, Chai. But very quickly, you feel that way ba if, let's say, people feel strongly na, let's say, Christian belief niya, hindi talaga siya naniniwala sa ganyan? Or as long as open siya, you won't mind as much?
No, usually I'm good at detecting the intention of a person.
Ah.
If they mean it like, that's just how I see it, I don't mean to insult you,
Mm-mm.
that's fine with me. But
Okay.
I'm with how, with all my experience in this, I know when a person have malice when addressing me, even if they address
Mm-mm.
me as
Okay.
Miss. Sometimes they could still be it could be sarcastically. Yun lang.
Mm. Okay. Thanks, Chai. Next is Digital or Bud Rante. Digital?
Oh, hi, good morning and good evening, everybody.
Good
Yeah, my,
evening.
my take on this one is,
Mm-hmm.
in any kind of relationship, whether friendship, marriage, is the business or whatever, okay? The most important thing is transparency, you know. Transparency, when you are transparent to everybody, yourself mostly, you know, you will build a relationship around you. Once you build that kind of relationship, there will be trust. So, yun lang, maiksi lang ano ko. The most important thing is, you lay out the grounds up front, you know, be accountable for it. And if they still like you to continue, the kind of relationship that you're looking for, both parties, that it's a go. If you do not disclose whatever you have, especially some marriage, is financial, is very important. And then relationship, you really have to lay out the grounds up front because it's not gonna last if you don't do that. Thank you. And I'll be cooking my breakfast, so I will just be listening. You can drop me as a speaker.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. That's all
Right.
right.
Thanks, Bud.
Teka lang. Again, may mga bago tayong visitors dito. So, this is discussing the current state of LGBT rights. We are currently on question number 4. Do you think pronouns are corny or are they a legitimate expression of um, identity? And is it a legitimate form of courtesy to use their pronouns? So, yun ang question natin, pero mag-move on na tayo sa next question. What are some
All right.
opinions that you have about the current discourse on gender identity? I should have clarified this question a little more or baka dapat pinalitan ko yung wording. Pero ang tinatanong dito ay parang sa tingin niyo ba kasi some people definitely feel like, they're not the assigned gender at birth. Pero, syempre, may mga tao din na, um, parang minsan, parang yung sexual identity nila, inaano lang nila, parang, like, they're just coming up with it out of thin air. And that's all. I'm not trying to delegitimize people's sexual identity here. Pero there's some concern na parang minsan nag-iimbento lang ang mga tao ng gender identity. Not to say
But if I may ask lang, are you talking about in discourse sa Philippines or
hindi, I mean,
abroad?
hindi,
Ah,
this is more of a Western problem. Pero
okay.
oh my gosh.
Mm-mm.
Teka lang.
It's
Let me think
okay
about this. Let me think
na.
about this. Let me think about
Don't
this. Let me think
be
about this.
worried.
Let me think about this. Kasi sinulat ko lang to. Tapos I
Mm-mm.
didn't think about how I was gonna explain this question.
Mm-mm.
Um. Hmm.
Kasi, for example, kasi the way I see this question labas nun, is it, for me kasi it's a perspective na, actually the West is very privileged that they're talking about this already. Kasi kung dun sa Philippine context, that kung ang pinaka biggest problem mo is the current discourse ng gender identity, then you're probably one of the privileged ones na pinag-uusapan to because most people are actually occupied since third world tayo na kung anong pagkain natin the next day. Di ba?
Yeah, that's
And that's
true.
my
Pag
standpoint.
yung iba yung mga issues na pinag-usapan sa mga mayaman na bansa. That's true.
First, first world
Iba
problems
yung
at
First world
priorities
problems.
natin.
Correct. Okay, you know what? As embarrassing as this sounds, I'm gonna skip this question for now.
all right, that's why
Okay.
I merged up. But okay lang.
Okay.
Come on. Number 6 then.
All right. Number 6, pretend this isn't Pride Month. Do you think that gender identity is being promoted too much in the media? So, in dito sana, this is not talking about like yung kung gaano karaming mga gay celebrities ang nasa TV ngayon. So parang si Vice
Mm.
Ganda. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like yung general na promotion in general ng LGBT culture. Do you think it's being promoted too much in the media? So, go. Sino na ba?
Okay. By the raise hand, si Theo, then Chai. Go Theo,
Bueno,
Chai, then Oreo.
bueno.
Mm.
Okay na? Bueno, okay. So, do I think that within ano ba to? Within the Philippine context or within the global context? Kasi kung Philippine context,
Well,
kasi yung
part din
sagot
ng
ko sa
hindi kasi
Philippine context,
part
iba
din ng
sa global
Hollywood.
context.
Part din ng Hollywood yun eh. So, whatever Hollywood puts out, pinapanood din natin. So,
Mm.
So,
Hollywood is
global
part
context.
of global context. Kasi media is
Okay.
media is a
Okay.
global thing. So, this is a global.
Okay.
Maybe if you'd like
Okay.
it, Theo, you can segregate yun dito, tapos yun abroad din.
Ayun. Yun. Okay. So, if for this question, mag-iiba yung sagot ko kasi depende yan within the Philippine context and within the global context. So, do I think that LGBT is overrepresented in the Philippine context? Hindi pa. Kasi ngayon lang nag-spring up yan. Di ba? Ngayon nga lang nagkaroon ng like drag queen show na mainstream eh. ABS-CBN yung gumawa. Although although the lead is a straight
Not necessarily
straight
true.
straight woman, but that's another story. Pero yun nga, ngayon nababalandra yung LGBT culture dito sa Pilipinas in a
Mm.
big, big ano eh. Kasi usually pag LGBT culture, nare-relegate lang sa, kunwari, within a, say, comedy bar context, or within, kunwari yung gay, yung bakla, sidekick lang, yung ganon. Yung bakla, sidekick lang. Pero ito, tinan mo, dami ng, di ba, meron yung Drag Race Philippines, ganon. Tapos, yung mga pakulo ng mga bakla na lagi na natin nakikita sa TikTok, nagiging dance crazes pa nga, di ba? So, no, I don't think they're overrepresented kasi ngayon na sila na-represent in a big way. But in a global context, I'd say 50-50. 50-50. Kasi on one hand, yes, they're finally getting a time to shine, but at the same time, there's that yung issue ng say yung quote-unquote rainbow capitalism. pati rin yung tawag dyan yung ayun yung woke tawag dun woke panic. I like to call it woke panic. Parang satanic panic ng dekada 80. Kasi nga, and nakakasawa rin yung culture wars sa US about that eh. Like, why not just let LGBT people tell their own stories? Just let them live. Just let them tell their... But at the same time, medyo iwas-iwasan din yung, I don't know, rainbow capitalism. Hindi rin masyado rin, kasi pag mga corporations na gumagawa nun, medyo nagiging ano na. So, yun. Iba yung sagot ko sa Philippine context and iba yung sagot ko sa global context with this question. Thank you.
Alright, thank you, Theo. Chai, then Oreo.
Yes, iba talaga. Kaya nga every time I'm always asking ano yung premise ng question. Kasi the global scenario when it comes to the gender issue does not reflect necessarily sa Pilipinas. Kasi nga sa atin, kahit noon, meron na even pre-colonial period pa meron na. But we as a Filipino, yung bond natin kasi sa isa't isa na kahit ang isang member ng pamilya meron siyang non-conventional characteristic, hindi naman natin kaagad-agad outright na tinatakwil. Eh, we still try to kung pwedeng baguhin. Now, kung itakwil talaga, hindi din naman lahat, at saka kung itakwil man, hindi talagang parang kagaya ng pagtatakwil na ginagawa ng mga westerners. Iba kasi iba yung settings. Now, sa question mo, if it's too much now, what is too much? In the global setting, yes, I feel it's too much because politicians and the global elites have already identified the power of the LGBTQ. And that is the reality. Ang problema sa Pilipinas, sa totoo lang, maraming magagalit sa akin, pero a lot of us are still in denial. And I know because of our value as a predominant Christian nation, na we want to stick to our religious values. Yan yung kinalakihan natin eh. And I cannot stop that. I cannot deny that to anyone because syempre, gusto nilang ipaglaban pa eh. Karapatan nila na ipaglaban na to remain true to their religious identity. Na part na ng kultura natin yan in many ways. Nakaano na sa atin yan, sa pagkatao natin yan bilang Pilipino. Now, sa pagiging popular or too much, hindi siya too much kasi nga it is what it is. Kumbaga, it's just a reflection of the real kung ano talaga gaano nakadami, bakit ganon. I think ang dapat siguro nating anuhin as a society is tanungin bakit dumadami. Hindi papaano pipigilan kasi obviously hindi natin mapipigilan to eh. Ang tanungin natin bakit dumadami. Ako being member of the community ay na ano din ako na bakit parang ang dami-dami at parang unapologetic na sila ngayon. That unlike before na if we can, we would still try to
Hey,
act
what
like
you having for dinner?
Wala.
normal,
Teka lang.
quote unquote. Pero if it's too much, no, I don't think it's too much. And if it's too much, what's the basis of too much? That's all.
Wala pa.
Kung anong magnitude niya. Right. That's a very good idea. Actually,
I'll
very
think of
good
something.
train of thought.
Nope.
Oreo?
For me, hindi
Sige.
hindi
Later.
ganun hindi naman siya too much. Hindi actually pausbong pa lang yung pagkakaroon natin ng promotion when it comes to gender identity, sexual preference, also to kung ano yung tingin natin sa sarili natin. Pausbong pa lang pag-promote natin na be ourselves because yun nga, we're predominantly Christians and Muslims dito. I think ang mga atheists ay nasa minority pa din and there are people na still religiously even though they don't believe in religion which is they're all in the majority. But, yun, may uprising eh. Tumataas na ngayon yung pagkakaroon natin ng BL series, pagkakaroon uh, ng pag-promote ng sexual identity, sexual preference and gender identity na ngayon tumataas siya. But for me, may mga still sa loob ng community, may mga problems katulad ng mismong uh, pagiging minority ng pag-represent sa trans people. Isa yun sa mga problems na kinakaharap ngayon ng community. And I would like also to say about the issue nung nangyari sa Pride Month, yung tinanggal yung silent sanctuary, na ang dami ng babash sa LGBTQIA plus community na sinasabi na kung gusto nyo respetuhin kayo, ganito ganyan, na nakikita natin kung gaano pa din ka-oppressed and kung paano ipinapahiya at hindi nire-respeto, hindi ginagalang ang ating ang kasarian ng isa't isa.
By the way, teka lang po. Context lang dun sa Silent Sanctuary. Yung isa sa mga bandmates, kinall out nila yung Silent Sanctuary kasi, he's supposedly, LGBT pero in the closet. And, ang sinabi ni Silent Sanctuary sa kanya na kung if you are gonna get out of the closet, we're gonna kick you out of the band. Totoo ba? Yun ba yung yun yung nabasa ko eh. Totoo ba yun, Oreo?
Yun yung, for me sa akin sa tingin ko yun lang din kasi, yun yung isa sa mga nabasa ko, na yun yung isa sa mga dahilan kung bakit ninanggal yung Silent Sanctuary. But yun nga, in
Okay,
the
good.
context
Thank you.
of that,
Thank you.
in the context of in that scenario, nakita natin yung pambabash sa mismong community, sa Facebook, sa Twitter, sa Instagram, na binabash pa din. At may hatred when it comes to the community. Dahil lang doon sa isang pangyayari na may punto naman yung mismong former band member. But yun nga, kung titignan natin, may pagtaas ng promotion ng LGBTQIA+ at gender identity sa media.
All right. Thanks, Oreo. Hans, I think there's no raise hands.
Okay.
Anyone
Thank
on
you
this
for
topic
that.
still?
So, that's question 6. I think I honestly could have done the wording a little better, pero I mean, this is an opinion question, so it wasn't like I was saying that. Parang yun lang yung tanong, so maybe some people feel that way. Um, Pero yun nga, sinabi ni Theo na iba yung context sa Philippines at iba rin yung context sa ibang bahagi ng mundo. Which ties into this next question na do you think the Philippines is more tolerant of LGBT than other liberal democracies? In what ways are the Philippines more or less accepting of LGBT in society here compared to other countries? So, I think this question is pretty self-explanatory. So yeah, Theo.
Go, Theo.
Okay. By Southeast Asian standards, yes. But by global standards, no. So Southeast Asian standards, well, kung titignan natin, we're probably second only to Thailand to the level of tolerance we have to the LGBT community. Mas tolerant pa nga tayo sa mga kapitbahay natin sa sa Malaysia at Indonesia. Kasi nga, of course, since they're both predominantly Muslim, bibirahin ka ng mga Islamist groups. Laging malalakas yung mga Islamist groups. Tayo, since ang mga naman talaga natin is yung mga evangelical Protestants, and also marami sa general public na sa LGBT. But overall, tinan mo, hindi gaano nababalita dito yung hate crime, di ba? Hindi gaano kumpara mo sa mga kapitbahay natin. And yes, we still have a long way to go. Like the way we treat the LGBT community when it comes to kunwari, kasal or property rights, ganyan.
Mm-hmm.
Sinasabi, special treatment ang gusto nyo di ba?
Mm.
Pero, yun nga, we're probably second only to Thailand in the region when it comes to tolerance of LGBTs. But global context, no, of course not. Kasi nga, yung mga Western countries mas tolerant sa atin. Espanya mas tolerant na sa atin. So yeah, those are my 2 cents.
Right. Actually, that's a very good insight din, Theo. Kasi one could say nga that we are tolerant, but not as tolerant as the global average. Chai?
Well, considering that we are Asians, yeah, I'm proud of our tolerance. Kasi Asians are basically very conservative para sa akin, ha? I don't know how is it in Japan, but I think they're also tolerant. In fact, nag-flourish pa doon yung mga trans women natin at one point. Highly demand sa Japan before ang mga trans women. And having stayed here in the Middle East for quite a long time and seeing how life of other trans people in other nations, like particularly India, Pakistan, yung they have to hide like criminal elements. It's just heartbreaking, and for that alone, I'm proud, and I appreciate how the Philippine society is tolerant. We might not be like how Thailand is, but still, I appreciate the tolerance that we have as a nation towards the community. Yun lang. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Chai. If there's no one else, Theo again. Oh, then Ryu.
Okay, magdadagdag lang ako dun sa sinabi ni Chai. Kasi yung sinabi about sa Japan. I guess, in my opinion, I guess parang pareho tayo na sa Japan. Kasi, well, yes, Japan also tolerates LGBTs, but at the same time, hindi pa gaanong hinog yung pang-unawa nila. Kasi, medyo rin especially if you go in, like, say, anime, manga, ganun. Parang merong element ng fetishization. Ganun eh. Di ba? Yung konsepto ng tawag dyan, kalimutan ko yung tawag dyan eh, pero sa English may tinatawag dun yung femboy, di ba? Fet, medyo fetishizing yun eh. Medyo fetishizing yung
Yeah,
portrayal ng
but
mga
to be
LGBT
completely honest,
characters. But yeah,
dun sa mga genre na sinasabi mo about manga, you'd see a wide variety of content na lahat ganun.
oo. Yeah, yun lang.
By the way,
Itadagdag ko lang yung punto ni Chai. Thank you.
can we highlight the fact that Thailand and Japan, I think, are when it comes to religion, they are not Christian. So I think it has may ano yon, may implication yon. Kasi I think Buddhism, they are very tolerant about sa ganyan, sa identity. I don't know. I think so.
Okay. Ryu?
Oh, sorry. Ayan, I agree that the Philippines is actually more tolerant, especially right now with the current settings, especially sa QC when Mayor Joy Belmonte added a new policy, which is the Right to Care program. But I'd like to focus more on the question in what ways that the Philippines are less accepting pagdating sa sa LGBT. I think it's more on pagdating sa right to inheritance. Most LGBT couples still has cannot inherit the properties of their partners. Employment, when it comes to employment, there are still employment uh, discrimination, uh, parental rights, as well as yung property planning rights and all those. So, doon sa mga part na yon, medyo ano pa siya, less accepting towards the LGBT.
Yeah. Actually, there's a lot of things nga to work on. Anybody else sa topic? Right. A few opinions lang dyan, if I may, Hans. Kasi the thing is about, let's say, kung property rights or I think civil unions labas nun, they have to be very careful there then. Well, again, this is my opinion, not to put the cart before the horse. Because people tend to forget that we still don't have the divorce law here. And kung nagawa yun, how they call it, civil union and marriage with property, people would tend to forget that there's marriage, pero hindi kayo makahiwalay. Which will create a different problem altogether. Courts?
Ayun, nakabalik na ako. Um, yung sinasabi ni Ryu kanina, about the employment discrimination, how do we, or how did you say back that it's discrimination? Maybe it's just, company preference. Diba? Same thing with age. For example, if I am an I would have to pick depending on the type of job that you need to perform, then I would have to pick somebody who could be older or younger, or so it's a matter of preference. I don't think that it's discrimination.
In my experience, Tito Courts, I'm a trans, and what I finished is actually education major in English. Yun. I wasn't able to teach when I tried to apply it in schools because I would have to actually like cut my hair and present myself as male in front of the class dahil may Magna Carta ang teachers na kailangan ganon namin i-present yung sarili namin. Uh, Even though I have all the required skills, but yung part na yon, it just saddens me kasi meron at meron pa ring mga kapwa ko trans na hindi makapagturo dahil sa gender identity namin. Ayun po.
Oh, thank you for clarifying that. That's so sad.
Yeah, kasi for example, if it's a technical skill, I think gender identity doesn't matter as much. For example, if it's pilot, but this again, this is just me thinking about reasons. Kung pilot, I don't think they would mind as much. But pag sa flight attendant, there needs to be a certain uniform, diba? So maybe that's something that needs to be talked about. Circulus? Hello?
Yeah, siguro dyan sa Manila okay lang. Pero dito, like dito sa Mindanao, we have a lot of the Muslims community which are
Yes.
very
Which
conservative.
is a minority and conservative din. Oh,
So I
that's
don't
correct.
know. I don't know if how can they accept that or uh, what's their take about that. I just want to hear also kung ano ang ano nila because we cannot deny that they are Filipinos and they there are also LGBT in their community. But as of now, they don't want to come out kasi may takot. Either may takot o against the Quran. I don't know. Kahit nasa Bible, ganun din eh. Di ba? So, sa Bible, ganun din. So, paano ba? Are we gonna tackle this like
Mhm.
by the law of the land, neglecting the law of God?
Hmm.
How are we gonna, ano approach natin dito?
So nga, in their case din, kasi if I'm not mistaken, sa autonomous region, they might institute Sharia law, di ba?
Oh, Sharia law sila eh. Di ba? So,
Mhm.
Teka lang.
so, the law of Quran,
Teka lang. Saan
whatever
yung Sharia
say,
law?
I think
Sharia
sa
law,
autonomous region, kasi they're
Ay, we.
gonna, yun
uh,
bang senior state yata, if I'm
uh,
not mistaken.
Ew.
Hindi, not,
ba-
not naman to Sharia, but I think they're gonna be a blend of it, if I'm not mistaken. Kasi it's not implemented pa, if I'm not mistaken. Wow.
no, hindi, we are now in the process of discussion.
Oh.
Discuss this o ano mangyayari diyan, 'di
Mm.
ba? So we have to consider that, 'di ba? There are
Yes.
they are our fellow Filipinos too. And it's the what you call really religious right
Yep, religious right.
cus, cus, customary na nila yan, di ba? Custom, di ba? So how paano approach, di ba? Kasi kung tingnan mo ang ethnicity ng bawat tribe, andyan pa rin eh, it exists eh. And you cannot change that. That is what makes us unique also, di ba? Just like Indonesia, ang dami-daming ethnicity. So anong tingin nila diyan? Can we respect that or wala na, burahin na lang yan, basta ganito na lang tayo. Ganon? To think with, kung idaan yan sa botohan, mas marami lalaki sa babae. Di ba? So,
I
ano,
think.
idaan sa boto, referendum, o what? Di ba? Yan ang ano ko ha. Kasi we are in a democratic country. You have the rights, yes. I agree with that. But to what extent? Di ba? Yan ang hanggang ngayon, ni, paano ba? Okay, I recognize that there are people who has that who are like that.
Kaya pasensya na, lalagyan ko po kayo ng 1 minute limit.
No, yeah. To what extent are we gonna like tolerate or not even tolerate, recognize o ano bang term? I think Chai can explain eh.
Okay. Chai?
Okay na pala.
Thanks, Circulus.
Thank you, Kuya Kolas. Guys, napapansin ko, masyado tayong careful. Tayo-tayo lang naman to, okay lang. Don't worry, para mas ma-express niyo yung gusto niyo sabihin. Don't worry kung may ma-offend.
Sensitive kasi, Miss Chai. So, syempre,
Mhm.
balance.
You have to be a bit
Yeah.
Trying to be careful. Trying to be careful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And gusto ko lang remind din yung yung mga Muslim
Sandali Chai ha. I have a brother in San Francisco who's a gay. LGBT siya. Di ba? Up to now,
Mhm.
ganun pa rin. Parang, okay, maraming nag-advise sa akin, okay, ganito, ganyan. Pero, para ako, taga Mindanao, iba iutak eh.
Totoo,
Sorry.
totoo. Alam, kasi the reason why we are discussing this issue, kasi I think there is scientific proof na when people are comfortable with themselves, they become better individuals. Therefore, mas magiging productive kasi if we have um, great individuals in the society. Now, since na pinag-uusapan niyo about Muslim community in the Philippines, I hope our brother there realized that even in Saudi Arabia and Iran, who are very, ano ba, strict and or ultra orthodox Muslims, if there's such a term, they recognize that the trans issue. In fact, in Iran and I think in Kuwait or Qatar, the government subsidize for transitioning procedure. You just have to prove that you are indeed a trans person. So, yun yung nakakapag na kung sino pa yung it's the same thing with Spain. Sa Spain sila pa yung nagdala sa atin ng Christianity, and yet mas progressive pa yung mga trans and gender issue and laws nila doon. And that is, for me, somewhere between hypocrisy and people who are benefiting from preventing this kind of ideology to propagate or to be recognized. So yun, even in UAE, uh, um there was a year of tolerance, like they tolerate everything for as long as within the boundaries of the law. Yun lang. Thank you.
Si Quartz na lang. You're up next. Teka lang. Sorry, I'm sorry. By the way, we are on question 8 to trans people in the audience. Have you ever? Sorry. Question 7. Question 7. Do you think the Philippines is more tolerant of LGBT than other liberal democracies? In what ways are the Philippines more or less accepting of LGBT in society? So, si Quartz.
Si Courts, then Circulas.
Well, I cannot speak really for the majority, no. So as for me, syempre, we've learned to coexist naman even before pa eh. So I have friends that belong to the LGBT community, at to the LGBT community din naman. Wala namang problema before eh. Except that now kasi I think some people, again, some is the operative word, hindi ko po nila lahat, are, they're trying to overexpose themselves. So, yun yung siguro hindi maganda. Actually, when I see yung videos na nangyayari abroad, and then I happen to read all the comments, parang, some are, some comments would say now, I've had enough of this. Okay lang naman sana kung hindi sana masyadong OA yung mga tao, yung ganun. So this never happened before eh. Ngayon lang siguro because they're trying to push for their rights. But siguro ko yung boundary lang siguro is when they try to take over women's rights, 'di ba? Like for example, may nabasa ako sa sinabi naman Miss Chai that it's okay, no? So mention ko lang din that uh, may nabasa ako na sa Twitter feed ko na parang yung isa, well, she wanted to get pregnant. Uh, I don't know, parang i-induce din yung yung milk ducts niya, yung mga ganon para she can breastfeed and all. Parang ako, okay, well, siguro in the experimental stage, pero as as a woman, how do you accept that? Parang I cannot wrap my head around it yet. Just not just yet.
Right.
Teka lang.
Mm,
I'm gonna interject.
okay.
CEO muna, tapos at pasensya na Kulas, pero you're gonna go after him and then we're gonna move on to the next question. Kasi ano eh, medyo matagal na tayo dito sa
Okay.
question na to. And by the way, we have new viewers. This is the current state of LGBT rights. We are currently on question 7. Do you think the Philippines is more tolerant of LGBT than other liberal democracies? In what ways are the Philippines more or less accepting of LGBT in society? Yo.
Okay. Go Ryu, then Circulas, please.
Ayan po, I think nagkakaroon lang po ng problema pagdating sa gano'n dahil dun sa ibang trans na pinu-push nila na yung pagiging trans woman is just an identity, gano'n. That they do not have to put in effort to transition to actually, consult psychologist or consult an endocrinologist. To us kasi, I think, I don't know if Ate Chai would agree. To us kasi parang to be considered as a trans woman, you have to put in effort, kagaya ng ginawa naming dalawa, to transition to a trans woman para talaga mapatunayan na you're a trans. Hindi yung magsuot ka lang ng pambabae or, you just put in makeup, you would push na ganun ka talaga, na babae ka na, ganun. So, doon nagkakaroon ng harm din sa amin na totoo talagang trans. Kasi any male then would take advantage of that concept na mag-makeup lang, ganun. And then would prey on, ano, on women, ganun. Ayun lang po. Yun lang po yung ko, opinion ko.
Hey, Kulas. And keep it brief, please. Thank you. Kulas? Hello?
Circulas? Okay.
Wala ata siya eh. Okay, so
Nangangawit na yan yung raise hand. Okay. Going once, going twice. Okay, hands.
okay,
I think we move.
so for the next two questions, this is a little more personal, and you don't have to share if you don't want to, if this applies to you, but you don't want to say anything. That's okay. And to the space, I want you guys to be respectful and have these. I want to know stories about how it would feel like to be that LGBT person. So, question 8 and 9 is related to that, personal experiences. So, in question 8, two trans people in the audience, have you ever felt gender, quote unquote, felt gender dysmorphia? And if you did, what did it feel like? Because, this is a term that I've heard a lot amongst trans people that, they felt like, they're not in the right. They felt like, at least what gender dysmorphia to me was, they didn't feel like they were in the right body. I'm not sure if that's an accurate term, but that's what it says. Anyway, does anyone have that type of experience? Sige, try.
Po. Ay, sorry.
Go Rio, go Rio.
Go ate. To ano lang po, I think to make distinction, transgenderism is somehow different from gender dysphoria kasi. And with regards to gender dysphoria, I don't think I have experienced gender dysphoria or discomfort na nandito ako sa ganitong body. But I did transition because that's what I feel that na babae ako, ganun. So, yun. Gender dysphoria kasi, I think it's more of an extreme na discomfort na it affects your daily function. Extreme discomfort of your gender na it affects your daily function, your work, your everything that you do, ganon. So far I have not experienced any of those naman. Ayun.
Okay. Did Try want to say anything?
Yeah,
Sure.
hi. Um, I didn't have any formal medical consultation or assessment when it comes to my gender identity. I didn't go through that, but I was lucky enough to able to navigate to my situation. I just want people to understand na nobody in his right mind go through would choose to go through what people in the LGBT community has gone through. It's not normal. It's mabuti pang masaktan ka physical kesa masaktan ka emotional. I hope that from that point maintindihan, if people could only understand that point, then later everything else would be easier for them to accept. Like nobody wants to go around and be shout out and sabihin na ganito ka, oh bading ka, or like that. Wala pong may gusto nun. Yung sinagsasabi na pinili iyo yan, no, that's not true. Hindi po namin pinili yon. It's just that we would rather live yung totoong nararamdaman namin kesa magtago sa mga tao na gustong makialam kung paano ko sa buhay yung pagkatao ko. When it comes to the question of have I experienced gender, I don't know if it's gender dysphoria, but at the age of about
Dysphoria nga, dysphoria. Yun pala yung tamang term.
yeah 12, I think from 12 onwards, like when I started to be aware that about the birds and the bees and about sex generally, um I was able to look at myself in the mirror without having to look at my genitals. And at some point in my life, like about maybe 5 7 years, like that, when I look at myself naked, it's like that area is being blurred by my mind for some reason. It's either it's being blurred by my mind, or I intentionally don't look at it.
Hindi, tinignan ko sa Google, ang sinabi daw, gender dysphoria means someone feels the body they were born into doesn't reflect their true self or who they are. Tapos, yung body dysmorphia is a disorder that results in someone perceiving a major flaw or problem with their own body. So, yun yung
Yeah.
pinagkaiba nun. Yun yung pinagkaiba nun.
Okay, so gender dysphoria is, I think, what uh, trans people feel, and body dysmorphia is like you feel like you want to be tall, but you can't be tall, and you hated that part na maliit ka, or like parts of your body that you don't appreciate, na bakit ganon, and it causes you extreme discomfort. So yun, yun lang, again reminder, nobody choose to be the gender that they are born to. Hindi po yan pinipilit. Hindi po yan nai-impluensya. Kahit po lumaki kami na magkapatid ng kuya ko with the same environment, the same set of parents, the same kind of education, the same kind of influence, the same kind of neighborhood, the same kinds of religious belief. But my brother turns out to be a normal male, and ako hindi. And at a very young age, I know that there is something. I wouldn't say it's wrong, because I was brought up that liking someone or loving someone doesn't have to conform to a certain gender. Hindi naman kasi ako pinalaki na, hindi ka pwedeng magmahal or mag-crush sa lalaki. No, there's nothing like that. I grew up na crush is crush. Crush is paghanga. Pagmamahal is pagmamahal. Hindi pwedeng dahil lalaki ka, hindi ka na pwedeng magmahal ng lalaki or babae or ganito or bading or whatever. Walang ganon. Pag magmahal ka regardless of gender. Kung may hahangaan kang tao, hahangaan mo sila for what they are, regardless of their gender. And I was brought up like that. And I was just lucky enough to have those kind of support system growing up. That's all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Charot.
Add up lang kay, to add up lang kay
Right,
Ate
Chai.
Chai, no?
Go, Ryu.
Yeah. Uh, I agree that we do not choose who we are. Kasi growing up then, we're parang na-immune na lang kami na we're being judged by the society, discriminated. And I actually tried na i-suppress kung ano ko simula pagkabata ko. And yun, I've come up to a decision na ano, not decision, I've come to be true to myself kung ano talaga ako. Kasi if if I can choose na maging straight na lang, of course I would. Kasi sino ba sa amin sa mga LGBTQ yung pipiliin na maging part or piliin na maging part ng community that we're being judged by the society. Ganon. Yan po.
Okay.
Ako na ba?
Sige po, sige po.
Sir, go,
Kala ko nawala
Kulas.
kayo eh.
Sir Kulas.
Yeah, so ang question ko is ganito. Kanina pa, di ba? Yung Shogi Bill ba, does it define yung to what extent ang clout ng LGBT?
Teka lang. We can talk about that in question 10. But this is about gender dysphoria. So we can talk about that later. But
Okay.
Pwede, sir. Kung pwede, sir.
So kanina may nadinig ako. Meron nagsabi sa akin na sa Saudi, because they are very strict Islamic, no?
yeah.
So, sino bang nasa andyan sino ba sa atin dito sa ngayon andito sa space na andyan sa Saudi, and I want to know what is the opinion of
Teka lang po.
government or Tawa about
Okay.
I lived in Saudi
Yes.
Arabia for 11 years.
so anong approach nila doon?
Actually, 'di ba, wala nang power ngayon, wala nang police power yung mga religious police. And society is already evolving. Ngayon pwede na what you call that, mag-drive ang babae. That's just the normal natural dynamics of society. Eventually, mag-i-evolve talaga sila. Ang nakakapagtaka nga lang is sila, they're more accepting. I remember back when I was just new in Saudi Arabia, I asked one Muslim there, I said, is homosexuality a sin? The answer of the Imam is, homosexuality per se is not a sin. But the act, if you engage on homosexual act, yes. So, nakita mo yung ano doon? Meron namang hindi sila homosexual, but they engage in homosexual acts. Meron namang homosexual, pero they don't engage in homosexual acts.
Okay, guys, nasa question 8 tayo. We can talk about that in our last segment. Pero anyway, we're gonna move on to the next question since wala nang speakers. Question 9. To somewhat devoutly religious LGBT in the audience, how do you reconcile what your faith says about your sexuality with your sexuality? So, ibig sabihin, kung religious ka talaga at LGBT ka rin, what do you think about what your faith says? O kung ano yung sinasabi ng ano yung sinasabi sa sa Bible or sa Quran tungkol sa sexuality mo. If anyone feels that way, pero feeling ko wala. Yep.
No, I have a question about that, no? Kay Chai, saka kay Rio, na tulad ng...
Okay, teka lang. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to cut you off. Sige, move na lang natin sa question 10 kasi mukhang wala Wala
Can I
namang may
answer that?
nag-relate dun. So sige na,
No, no, no. It's about
Sige na, go ahead,
religion.
go ahead, go ahead.
Go,
It's about
Chai.
religion. That's according to your item, no? Ganito. So what does the Pope says about it, and what does the Imam says about that? No, kasi ito lang naman ang dalawang parang pinakamalaki na religious group sa mundo, di ba? And I've been to India. So ang Hindu, they accept that because meron silang parang eunuchs, parang tulad sa China na na mga lalaki na bading na nagsiserve sa queen. Parang ganun, meron sila eh. So ang hindi ko alam, ang sa Pope, accepted ba ng Pope yan? Pero ang yung sabi ni Chai kanina, no, merong hindi homosexual na that performs homosexual act. Sa akin, once you perform that homosexual act, you're already a homosexual. Di ba? Nilalaki ka man, pumatol ka sa bading. Chay, yung bading ba acceptable na 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 tawag sa inyo? Okay ba?
Okay lang po, Kuya Kulas. Pag galing sa'yo, wala pong mali siya yan.
No. Educate me. Kasi,
Walang kuya kunas.
Yeah, I think yes. Nasa pagsasabi po yan. Sabi ko nga, di ba, Kuya Kulas, even yung salitang bakla, it is sometimes being used as a term of endearment. Di ba? Merong magkakaibigan, hoy bakla, kamusta ka na? That's not meant to offend. That is meant to, you are someone close to me.
depende sa delivery.
Yes,
diba?
exactly.
So, ganito. Sa atin, we will be open about that, no? Dito kasi that is how we address the issue. Parang gano'n, no? So parang okay, kung bakla ka, kung ikaw straight, pumatol ka sa bakla, LGBT ka na rin. Kasi confused ka na eh.
Okay. Would you want me to
man,
Yep.
but
Okay.
your partner is a bading.
Okay.
Yep.
Sige.
Diba?
Can I address that?
Okay, go
Yeah.
Chai. Then I
Okay.
think Oreo, kanina ka pa kasi nag-raise hand. So Chai, then Oreo.
Okay. Medyo medyo graphic to. So, yung mga hindi kaya
PG, hindi ka.
yes, medyo
Or
rated,
R18, ganun ba?
parental guidance to. Okay.
Okay
It's
lang.
like this.
Warning.
The act of sodomy is not attributed to a normal male to female kind of sex. Sodomy is oftenly attributed to homosexuality. Therefore, if a normal couple engage in sodomy, which is very rampant in sa mga ganyang bansa. Tagalogin ko baka may makarinig, recorded pa naman to. Kapag ito yung purpose, ito yung para context lang ha, bakit rampant? Kasi nga lumalaki silang magkahiwalay ang mga lalaki at babae. And more often, yung mga lalaki, they have to be boys. Boys have to be boys. And growing up at the age of mga 15, 16, 17, 18, until 19, some of them cannot handle their male instinct. So sometimes, nagiging na sa kanila yung, sige lang, para lang, mairaos. So, kaya nagiging normal sa kanila yan. Up to a point na minsan, pati, I think this is common knowledge. Hindi lang, not spoken in public na common knowledge sa mga, mga na-Arabo, na yung mga hindi nag-aasawa, pag may mga boyfriend sila at gusto nilang maging intimate, Kasi virginity sa kanila is a very, very sacred and very important issue. Pag nag-asawa ka, it breaks and makes a woman. Your virginity is just ko the highest yata. So, para ma-navigate yung nila dyan is they go to the backdoor negotiation. Kaya kahit babae sa kanila, nag engage dyan. So, yun ang sinasabi ko na hindi naman yan mga bading, pero yung ganyang, kahit sa ating mga Pilipino, ang mga babae, alam ko na, ilang beses ko na narinig na pag may nag-offer sa kanila ng lalaking ganyan, mag-insist, sasabihin na, hoy, bakit? Bading ba ako? Baka babae kong tao, gaganyanin mo ako. 'Di ba? So, yung act na yan ng sodomy is not attributed to a heterosexual sex. So, yun yung sinasabi. Does that make them a sinner? Oh. So, nandoon yung doon. Argument.
Okay. Yeah,
Pero
thanks, Chai.
so
Uh,
you're using the word sodomy, no? This is just
yeah.
a follow. You're using the word sodomy. So I went to Google and look for the noun sodomy. Ang sabi dito, sexual intercourse involving anal or oral copulation. So, it doesn't, this, parang siya di ba? Kung gamitin mo siya sa lalaki, kung yan ang pag-iintindi mo, okay siya. Pero ang sodomy came from Sodom and Gomorrah, di ba? Yan ang lumabas yan eh. So malalim na to, Bible na to pinag-usapan. Ngayon, meron dito. Okay. So pero ang sa akin, ang paningin ko, it's between a man and a woman. Di ba? It's between a man and a woman. Pero kung sa bading, tingnan niya, pwede man ito sa lalaki, di ba? But, hindi ito pwede sa babae. Pero pwede ito babae-lalaki. So, how do you look at it? Kasi ginamit yung sodomy, di ba? But then, parang arguable, di ba? Kung saan gamitin ito, di ba? Paano gamitin ito? Saan ang proper na gamitan nitong word na to, di ba?
I think parang broad term lang yung sodomy. Pero hindi hindi nasa constraint nung kung paano yung define ng Bible. Pero yung sodomy per se, as it is usually defined, nakabase lang sa homosexual acts.
Ano ba yan sa Bible?
I might be wrong. I'm not sure though. Hindi, pero yung sodomy, yung Sodom part sa Bible talaga nanggaling. Pero yung sodomy,
because of Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah.
Oo. Pero yung sodomy, talaga yun. Sa, parang na yun, in-expand yung definition. If that makes sense. So anyway, again, nasa closing statements tayo. The current state of LGBT rights.
Yeah, but I think si Oreo first before we...
Sige, Oreo, go ahead.
Closing na tayo, Oreo.
Yeah, Oreo.
So yun, so again, I am a Catholic person. I graduated from Catholic, wait
Hello? I think Oreo is transferring to a better... as a place na mas hindi
He's going.
hindi makin.
Tas Twitter sa purgatory.
Hello.
Ayun.
Am I audible?
Go, Oreo.
Am I audible? Narinig ako ng...
Yep.
Sige lang, we can hear you.
Sorry sa background noise again. Yan, I am graduated from Catholic, but yes, I'm part of the LGBTQIA+. Yeah. Yung sa questioning kasi, hindi ko naabutan. So, with the questioning kasi, there are different kinds of interpretation of Bible when it comes to my faith. And there are a lot of religious organization inside the Catholic Church that guides the LGBT person with their faith. I think there one na predominant na kilalang kilala siya. I forgot the name of that organization inside the Catholic Church. And para masagot na rin yung tanong ni Sir Kulas about Pope na ano ba yung tingin ng Pope sa homosexuality. It is the same with the Imam na pero sinabi kasi ni Pope ganito, who am I to judge? Ano ang kasalanan? Sino siya para manghusga ng tao? Nahuhusgahan niya yung LGBTQIA plus couples, yung LGBT person. And the Vatican also calls na wag gawing krimen ang pagiging homosexual. Isa yun sa mga nagustuhan ko when it comes sa Catholic Church na naging progresibo din ng mismong church natin na yung tingin ng church sa isang tao ay nilikha din sila ng Diyos na nilikha din ng mga LGBT persons.
Okay, thank you
Right.
for that, Oreo. Ay, sige, Northern.
Yeah, okay, okay. I think with that, I think we move on to the last topic. Hans, if you like.
Wala na, ito na nga yun.
Okay.
Closing statements na tayo. So, anything that we didn't previously discuss earlier or baka gusto nyong bumalik sa isang question and you wanted to answer that, go ahead. So, kung meron kayong opinion sa questions today or in this space in general,
I think
speak
sabi ni
now or
Ate Che,
forever hold your peace.
oo. I think sabi ni Ate Che kanina sasagutin niya yung question number 9.
All right, Chai, you like?
Ano yung question number 9?
To somewhat devoutly religious LGBT in the audience, how do you reconcile what your faith says about your sexuality with your sexuality? Kung
I grew up in a
kung religious ka
very,
kako.
I grew up in I come from a very religious group, but at the same time I didn't hear any of my old folks criticizing anyone for being who they are. Like I don't hear my lolas before. I have three lolas, two old maid and one Maria Lola. I never heard them trash talk anybody who are acting outside of the conventional um genders. I grew up with that kind of values. Even my uncles, we are not the kind of family that diminish or insults people based on their gender and identity. And
Anong
in
religion yan?
spite, I'm sorry,
Anong ano yan? Catholic ba sila or Christian?
Catholic,
Catholic,
Roman
okay.
Catholic.
Okay.
Kami yung 6 o'clock kailangan dadating ka sa bahay, magnonovena kayo. Hindi kayo kakain ng hapunan hanggang hindi natatapos yung novena. Lumaki ako sa ganyang settings. So, at the same time, hindi din ako nakakita o nakarinig ng mga pangmamaliit. FYI, yung dalawang lola ko, mga auntie lola ko, I think they are lesbians. But the family don't talk about it out in the open. Yun lang. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you.
Yep.
Hindi, pero nawala-wala kayo. It's a genuine surprise na okay yung internet mo ngayon for the most part.
Right.
I'm
But
at home, hindi ako naka-data, naka-wifi ako, kaya okay yung net ko.
okay. That's good. Pero ano nga tayo? Question 10, closing statements, the current state of LGBT rights PH edition. So, kung meron pa kayong comments, we can wait here for 2 more minutes. But, this is about to close. Overall, I like the discussions that we had, especially in the earlier questions. it was a really productive conversation, and maraming, I think everyone was able to get their input out, that they wanted to. So that was good. Uh, Anyway, baka meron kayong comments tungkol sa mga rules sa space. And in fact, I kind of broke them. Pero this is the first space that I'm hosting, and
Congratulations. I
yeah.
think you did well
Woo!
for a first time. Yes. Very I like the atmosphere. Relax lang.
Medyo mas
Um
relax pa to kumpara sa iba. Kasi iba, bardagulan nga. And considering yung topic natin, I was expecting like a little bit more heat. Pero in this case, this was actually pretty civil, kung tutusin.
yeah, we are a very civil community here in Twitter.
Uh,
A lot of most of us. But pag
mm,
meron mga inaano naman namin, we addressed it naman.
naman. Okay, but I was
Ano na ba? Closing statement na ba?
closing
Yep.
statements na kanina pa.
Tapos na ba?
Hindi,
Closing
hindi.
statement
Kung
na ba
gusto,
yung akin? Hindi
kung
pa.
meron kayong gustong sabihin, carry lang.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Closing statement ko is that first, I hope that those who don't belong to the community realize that nobody would want to go through what LGBTQ people are going through in every day of their lives, being confused or whatever in their personal issue already is too much for them. Sana wag na nating dagdagan pa. You may call it an abnormality, you may call it whatever you want, but let's be kind to them. May pinagdadaanan na yung tao. The least that we could do is, leave them be their own, live and let live. And second is sa mga parents na worried about this tawag dito, indoctrination, that always remember na palakasin ninyo yung mga values ng mga bata, yung paniniwala, and make it a challenge na this current situation that's happening in the world, not only when it comes to gender issue but even to about violence is parang nagiging normalized na, parang now it's normal to poke fun on people, even at school. Even school have become so violent. So make your children strong individuals with strong values, and that cannot be easily swayed by any kind of influence other than yours. Yun lang. Love, love, love.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Chai. Who else? I'll go Ryu.
Ayun lang, to add lang din dun sa sinabi ni Ate Chai. And I hope that while you form your child's value, you would not somehow resort to violence and hurtful words towards your children. I hope for kids to no longer experience yung iaano sila sa drum, yung mga ganong bagay. So, yun lang din for me.
May nangyari pa bang ganun, Ryu?
Siguro during our time. Pero
Meron pa ibang
Meron
generation
pa
gap
kaya?
yun. Oo.
ngayon, since vocal ng mga I don't think it happens.
Mm,
I,
okay.
Ngayon
hindi
mga
natin masabi.
bata pa ini-encourage na, nilalagay pa sa social media para bang proud pa sila na yung anak nila ganon. My God.
Okay. Circulas?
Um, I hope no na uh, this will end up fair to everyone. Yung in yung you want us more than what it should be. You're right, 'di ba? We have to put everything has its own. Kasi pag hindi mo yan define o quantify, darating yung panahon na susobra yan. So up to what extent? 'Di ba? So yan lang. Siguro kung kung sa tingin ko, our economy will be as good as Europe o the West, di ba? And then we could deal with this on a more liberal and expanded one approach. So sa ngayon, wow, man. Guys, you have to cooperate.
Well, yung sinabi mo na ano, we can deal with it easier if we were a first world nation. I don't think anything is stopping us from making legislation na ano, will be more accommodating sa LGBT. Yeah, it's a matter of just making legislation. I think yung sinasabi mo, yung pinagkaiba ng ano, what people would like deal with in their everyday lives. Pagdating sa ano, sa mga first world nations, doon mas marami silang time na mag-discuss ng mga ganung bagay kumpara sa atin kasi focus tayo more on ano natin, yung mga immediate needs, kumbaga. If that makes sense. Sorry. Sorry sa pag-interject. Sige lang po, Sir Kulas.
Yun lang ba?
Okay, baka
Okay.
wala na siyang sasabihin. But
Okay.
anyway,
If there's
Hello, sorry.
Oh, sure, hello.
Sa akin, sa kwan lang, kasi ang marami may concern eh. Di ba? Example, yung isang concern dati, binabalik-balik na natin. Diba? How about, will they demand for a separate kwan, yung wash closet? Di ba? O yung CR. Di ba? Would they demand for that? Now, ano ang feeling ng babae kung parang makisali na rin kayo sa athletics competing against girls. Di ba? When your body structure is a man. Parang ganon. Di ba? So, paano ang sabihin ng babae niyan? So, mostly it will affect babae. Kasi alam naman namin yung tibo. Hindi, ayaw naman talaga yung makikubeta sa lalaki. Alam niya mangyari. Di ba? So, ang bading, yan ang ano. So anong approach natin diyan? Ganon, di ba? So, better to have this kind of discussion because ilabas na natin lahat bago pa darating sa ganyang punto. Buti na alam na pag-usapan na parang ganon, di ba? Kasi yung pabayaan mo pagkatapos daan pala problema. Buti na nakikita natin ang problema ngayon, napapag-usapan, di ba, ng maayos, tapos we agree to disagree on that matter. Di ba, na isang portion, hindi naman lahat disagree ka, di ba? Kasi andyan na yan, hindi mo naman, tutulad nga sinabi nyo kanina, hindi nyo naman hinihingi yan, andyan na yan. Di ba? So, kami naman na straight, di ba? We have to accept that may ganong nilalang. So, hanggang saan? Paano? Di ba? Parang ganon. Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks, Sir Kulas. Is there anyone else?
May bago tayong listeners dito. They were in the closing section ng... Teka lang. I got this.
Okay.
Sorry about
Hello?
that. Ano lang, nagtatroll lang.
Well, ganyan talaga usually pag tawag din, I think English at saka hindi nakasulat ng Philippines too. So anybody can join the space.
Nga.
Especially.
Hindi. Anyway,
Alright.
closing statements. Mukhang wala
ba?
na. That's it.
Okay.
We're
If
concluding
that's
the
the case,
space.
can I speak something?
Sige, ikaw.
Okay. But first, I'd like to commend this space. Kasi, syempre, you know naman that issues like this are difficult to be tackled. And I'd like to commend Political Salot and Hans for actually holding this.
What's
Please
up?
follow him.
What's
and
up?
follow him. And there's a YouTube live stream, Political Salot din. Like it and subscribe. But here's the thing, no? Ito yung issue lang, especially sa Sogi. It's not a feature din eh. But that's why pinupush to eh. Kasi that's a normal course of law eh. And I'd like to caution on that din. Because we are very tolerant dyan. And if there's anything that I can see, and the contention is on general na nakita ko, is that when people push it, people tend to push it too far. Diba? Maybe beyond the time. Kasi that's the contention here. Ang nakasulat, if yung contention ko dun sa bill is the institution cannot discriminate. Walang nakasulat which institution, nakasulat ng institution. Papag-awayan yan pag hindi yan naging, because what institution would that be? Would that be certificate? Would that be marriage certificate? Kasi that would be a government institution din. Diba? So, what does that mean? And you'd be sure that kung nakapasa yan, tapos the implementing rules is unclear, it can be challenged sa Supreme Court, which is another problem. But maybe that's actually the point. Di ba? But that's why caution yan. Kasi ang mangyayari yan, it's already parang we're going there. There's already slowly. Tapos bigla, as you said, the second only to Thailand, tapos bigla, right turn shift, U-turn mo ng diretso. It's like, somebody described it perfectly well, na you're already getting there, parang the train, malapit na, parang slowly going to that station, diretso na, tapos bigla, nag-rev siya to 90 miles per hour, tapos dumiretso siya ng todo, di ba? Right? Nilampasan yung station. We might not want to see that din. And yun yung fear ko lang dito. Kasi, and it's gonna be a very interesting trope versus religion kasi it's already being overused. But it would be tend to be true that we celebrate Mother's Day, International Women's Day, at saka fathers get 1 day. But pride gets a month, diba? So that's gonna be contentious, and I don't think this is gonna be the last spaces for that. So I commend this place. So yun, Hans.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So again, closing statements. 1 minute na lang, and then kung wala pang magsasalita, then we're concluding this space. So,
Congratulations, Han.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Congrats, Hans.
Mm, thank you.
Congrats.
Mm. Doop, dee-dee-doop, 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 dee-dee-doop.
Ganun yun.
Ay na. Sige na,
So,
okay na yan. Sige na guys. Thank
yeah,
you. This was fun.
all
Next
right.
time ulit. Sige ah.
Okay.
Bye.
Ciao.
Hindi tapat si Marcos Jr. at yung kanyang administrasyon sa mga prinsipyo ng pananagutan at
Ayaw nga, no? Nakalimutan ko.